hails from Holland. He's wearing a particular outfit today. Ooh, he's going to be a little chilly. He has titled it An Extra Mile. Now his mother is with him tonight, and often his mother will say, I never heard that story. So I often wonder about Steve's life. Come on down, Steve.
Yes. Has anybody heard of the expression, go the extra mile? Any hands? Okay, most of us have. Now, where that expression comes from, or it's generally attributed to come from the Bible. It was in Matthew 5 where Jesus was giving the Sermon on the Mount. He was talking to his disciples about if a Roman soldier comes up to you and asks you to carry his gear for a mile, don't just carry it a mile, carry it an extra mile. And apparently Roman soldiers were allowed to ask Jewish citizens to do that, carry their gear for a mile. That was the law. Now, tonight I want to share a story of an extra mile. And it gives me the opportunity to marry my love of storytelling with my enthusiasm for bike riding. Because this story involves some bike riding. Now I like bike riding. I've loved it for a long time. I've done trips, long trips all over the Midwest, ridden short distances, long distances, road bikes, mountain bikes, ridden 147 miles in a day one time. But I like also starting new people, new enthusiasts getting started on their bikes. And in this story, that's what happened. Quite a number of years ago, a friend of mine, Mark, wanted to do some bike riding. And at this time, I lived in Bryan, Ohio, a small city in northwest Ohio, of about 8,000 people. And so Mark wanted to go for a ride, but we're going to start on baby steps. So the first couple rides, we actually only went a couple miles, which for me wasn't a lot, but I was willing to do that to help get Mark started. And eventually we started working on this little route through the edge of town, through some sleepy roads, and then we'd get out to go past the middle school on the edge of town, and then we'd ride out on this almost deserted country road to get out to US 6, kind of a main 2-lane road, and from there we'd cross and go one more mile, and it ended up being 4.5 miles that we would go out. Eventually that's what we worked up to, and when you turned it around, it was a 9-mile trip. And Mark would do that. We did that a number of times, and everything went well. There was nothing remarkable about the trip, and I had ridden out way past there many times, dozens of times, and nothing remarkable ever happened. But on this one occasion, it was in the fall, a sunny fall day, fairly nice temperatures. It was in the late afternoon. We rode out, and we got out past the middle school, rode out the lonely country road to US 6, crossed US 6, went one more mile, and stopped at the stop sign. And I turned to Mark and said, what do you think, Mark? Would you like to go another mile? And, well, I've done this to many people. If you have been with me on some of my adventures, I kind of pushed them a little, but in this case, I was kind to Mark and just waited to see what he would say. And I just held my breath, and he said, well, yeah, I guess we could go another mile. I said, okay. So we started riding. We were going to go south another mile. And the road started to narrow at this point. Now it's a paved road, but not in very good condition. It's kind of bumpy. It has little waves in it. And we're riding along, and we haven't gone too far, maybe about a half a mile in our mile, when a vehicle is approaching us. And it's coming at a high rate of speed. And as it's approaching, I can see it's a white Bronco. It's exactly like the one that O.J. Simpson used in his infamous chase. And so this white Bronco is coming, and as my friend Mark would like to say, it's taking its half out of the middle. And because the road's so narrow, because this Bronco's coming down the middle, our only option is to get off to the edge of the road in the ditch, in the grass. And so we do that, and as the vehicle zooms by, this is a road where probably you'd want to go about 50 miles an hour at a top speed, but it was probably going closer to 70 miles an hour, maybe faster. And there was a woman driving it, and she zoomed by, and we veered back onto the road, not too happy, but we continued on. Now when we got down to the end of the road, there's a stop sign, and I was a good person. I stopped and turned around, and as we turned around, I didn't try to push Mark any farther, but as I turned around and we started coming back, there was a house there on the corner. And there was a white van sitting out in the driveway, and there was a husband and wife out there. They were kind of an older couple, probably somewhere well into their 60s. And they kind of waved us over. They said, "Hey, you guys, can you come over here and help us?" And, well, I guess. Yeah, we're trying to get this mattress inside our house, and we need some help. So we walk up to this van. It's a big white panel van. It has 2 doors that open up to each side, one on each side. And this big mattress is pushed inside the van. And we start to grab it. I've moved a lot of mattresses in my day. I started to grab it, and I can't get it out. And we tug, and the husband and wife are pushing on the other end, and we can't get it out. Well, eventually we realized that, well, this was like a big king-size mattress. They must have had to bend it to get it in the van. And when they bent it and got it past the threshold of the door, it expanded again, and it was caught behind the edge of the door. And so we had to get somebody in the van and bend, and the mattress was pretty stiff, pretty rigid, but eventually we got it bent enough, and we were able to slide it out, inch it out, and got it past the edge of the back door, and got it out, and they asked if we could carry it in the house, which we did. We carried it up some concrete stairs, and we got to the porch, carried it up to the porch, and got it in their living room, and finally they said, "Hey, that's all we need." And okay, and we let it go, and we walked out. Now, as we walked out and got back on our bikes, we started riding again. And I forgot to mention that after the Bronco had passed us, over on to the west, on the right side, there had been a 4-wheel ATV vehicle going out in this field. And there had been like a teenage boy on it. And it had a trailer behind it, and he was doing circles. This was a big stubble field, and he was just messing around out there. So as we got back on our bikes, I started to glance over there to that stubble field. I wondered where that kid was at. And it was a big, expansive field. You could see a long, long ways. And as I gazed over the horizon, I could not see him anywhere. I thought that was odd. Even if he had taken off for wherever he was going, I would have thought I would have seen some little patch of dust or seen him somewhere, but I didn't. So we got on our bikes, we start riding back. And we ride about half a mile back on this last mile, and we came to a bridge. And there was a deep ditch cut in the field off to the west. And it probably went down 10 to 12 feet. And as we're riding over that bridge, just kind of on a lark, I look over and I can see the ATV. It's down in the bottom of the ditch. And the boy that was on it is laying in the ditch. And so we hop off our bikes and we race over there and to check him out. We get up there and start talking to him. He's not pinned or trapped under the vehicle, but he's dazed for sure. And it must have just happened because he's just lying there. He hasn't moved since he fell, apparently. And he's not on the near side of the ditch. When he had gone over, he had gone to the far side of the ditch. So he must have been going pretty fast. But he seems to be okay. And what he asked us to do right away is, "Hey, can you help me get my ATV up out of the ditch?" And we started to look at it, and there was no way. It was too big, too heavy, and it had a trailer on it. There's no way we could get it up there. But the next thing he asked is, "Can you go get my mom and have her come back to help me get it out?" I said, "Well, I suppose we could do that. Where's your mom at?" And she's at the next house over. "What house are you talking about?" So we climb out of the ditch, and he points over to the south or to the northwest. So it's around the corner from where we've been riding. So it's, okay, we'll go get him, or we'll go get your mom. So we get back on our bikes out at the road. We ride north to the stop sign. We turn to the west, ride down to the first house. There's some big barns there, so you couldn't really see the house that well from where we'd been at in the ditch. When we got there, we pulled in the driveway, and there's a vehicle in the driveway. It's a white Bronco, the same one that almost ran us off the road. So we go up to the door, knock on the door, and the mom comes out, and we tell her what's happened, and she's pretty concerned about her son, and so she wants to go back out there. She wants us to come with her, and she doesn't like drive on the road. She takes off cross country in the Bronco, going across the field and following the stream all the way out there. And we had mountain bikes, so we followed along, and by the time we got out there, she was there already, and she said, "Hey, can you guys help me get this ATV out of the ditch?" And I'm thinking, well, maybe. I had towed a number of things in my day and had worked in maintenance, had used chains and straps and knew some techniques for doing that. So she had a strap with her, and there are a couple of different kinds of straps for towing vehicles. One kind is more rigid, kind of like your seat belt. It doesn't stretch much. And then there's another kind that's braided that has quite a bit of elasticity to it. And she had that kind that had the more elasticity to it. So we stretched that out, we hooked that up to the ATV, and she started to pull. And when she started to pull, the Bronco moved away from the ditch, but the ATV didn't move at all. And I could see this as being a potential problem. And I asked her to stop. And plus the rope, the ditch was so deep, the rope was cutting through the ground, because it's a 10 to 12 foot deep ditch. The rope's cutting through the ground at the top of the ditch. So she stops finally, and I tell her, "I don't think this is a good idea. I think you should probably wait till your husband's home so you can get the right equipment out here to pull this out." And she's like, no. I want to get this out now. I want to get it out now. Help me get it out now. I don't think so. Your son didn't get hurt. You should be thankful that he's not hurt and call it good and wait till later. But she refused, and I said, "Good luck to you." And my friend Mark and I left. I don't know what happened to them. But we get back out on the road, and we come to the stop sign for that last mile, and then we are in the next mile heading towards the U.S. highway. And about halfway across that mile, there's a woods off to the left, to the west. And as I'm looking out there, I can see 4 deer coming out of the woods, and they're running across the field, and they're running pretty fast. And so I'm thinking, this is going to be cool. They're going to cross right in front of us. I can see that's going to happen. And so we weren't going really fast on our bike, maybe 10, 11 miles an hour, but we sped up to maybe 13 or 14, and that just pushed them a little bit, so they had to run a little faster, and they were very graceful, and they ended up crossing in front of us. They kind of angled a little bit to the north as they crossed in front of us, and so that was a really cool sight. And they didn't stop there. They went across the open field on the east side of the road, continued, and they started angling towards this farmhouse. And when they got up to the farmhouse, there had been a fence along all the way to the farmhouse, and then when they got up to the farmhouse, they went through the farmer's yard, and were continuing to ride north towards the highway. And when they got to the highway, they were going to cross to the north over US 6. And when they got there, the first deer crossed over the road, and then all the other deer waited. Once the first deer got over, then the second deer crossed over the road. And when that one got over, then the third deer crossed over the road. Now, to the east of this farmhouse, there was a dip in the road, and it went down probably 30 or 40 feet. And when that third deer was crossing the road, I could see that beyond the farmhouse, there was a car coming, and it had gone down in that dip. When it came time for the fourth deer to come up to take its turn to cross, it could hear and see the car, and it stopped. And deer aren't known for being particularly intelligent, and it's like, what am I going to do? 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 So eventually the deer did an about face, turned away from the farmhouse, and started running back down the fence row towards where we were at the corner. And so it's zooming along. I'm like, wow, this is cool. This deer's just flying towards us. This is going to be really neat. We're going to have a really good view of this deer. Well, it got about halfway towards us, and it's still going very fast. And I'm starting to wonder, well, this is cool, but I wonder if this deer is going to see us or something. And it kept coming, like it didn't see us at all. And we're standing right along the fence row. And eventually, when the deer got about 30 feet from us, the deer stopped. It did see us finally. But then it's back to, what do I do? 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 So the deer backs away from the fence. It turns around, backs away about 25 feet. And then it points itself towards the fence, and it takes 2 huge leaps towards the fence. And I think on this 3rd leap, and we're right along the edge of the fence, we're going to see it going over this. It's a wire mesh fence with a pole, fence pole post about every 15, 20 feet. We're going to see this deer jump up, like right down about 25 feet from us. It's going to be really cool. This is what I'm thinking. As the deer finished its 2nd leap and took its 3rd leap, I was surprised at what I saw, because the deer didn't go up at all. The deer went forward only. It plunged straight into the fence, and the fence stretched like a big rubber band, and then it threw the deer back, probably 20 to 25 feet. And almost where it had started from is where it landed. And it probably broke its neck. The deer was still alive, but it was definitely seriously injured. We walked up by it, and then we walked down to the farmer's house to let him know what had happened, because sometimes people like to claim a deer that's recently deceased. And by the time we walked back out there, the deer was dead. So that was what happened to us in this extra mile that we went. All these events that happened, the mattress, the boy in the ditch, the deer, seeing the deer. All these things happened in that extra mile. And it makes me wonder when I think of that story, what kinds of things happen? What kinds of differences happen when I either go that extra mile or don't go that extra mile? And going that extra mile actually has led to me being here tonight, sharing this story with you. So, thank you.
Nice, nice.